A sudden, loud bang echoed in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It felt as if a giant hammer had slammed into the bottom of a ship. Everything was turned upside down in an instant. When Dougal Robertson was thrown onto the deck, he had no idea they were facing the ocean's most terrifying predators. This wasn't just an accident, it was a deliberate attack. On that cursed day in 1972, blue waters of the deep sea turned into a living nightmare. Killer whales, known for their incredible intelligence and hunting skills, had targeted the Robertson family, and to this day, no one knows why. But that attack sparked a fight for survival that will give you goosebumps. Today, I'm going to tell you the unbelievable story of how they spent 38 days cheating death by drinking raw turtle blood and resorting to the most desperate measures just to stay alive. Dougal Robertson was an experienced sailor. His dream was to take his family and sail all the way around the world. With that dream in mind, he set off in 1972 on his boat, the Lucette, along with his wife Lynn, their 4 children, and a friend. They started their journey from Panama, heading toward the Galapagos Islands. At first, things were wonderful. It felt like a dream vacation under the clear blue sky. But June 15th changed everything. The morning started out calm, but suddenly 3 massive killer whales appeared under the boat. Before anyone could react, one of them smashed into the back of the ship. Dougal later said the hit was so powerful that the hull cracked and water started pouring in immediately. In less than a minute, their home on the water sank into the dark depths of the ocean. As the boat went down, the Robertsons didn't have a second to waste. They scrambled into a small rubber raft and a tiny dinghy named the Edna Mare. As they watched their ship disappear, they realized they were completely alone in the middle of the sea. They only had a few days' worth of dry food and a tiny bit of water. For miles in every direction, there was nothing but water. There was almost no hope of being rescued because they were far away from any regular shipping routes. For the first few days, they hoped someone would spot them, but as time went on, that hope started to fade. The scorching Pacific sun and the salty air were slowly breaking them down. When their food and water finally ran out, the real test began. Drinking seawater is a death sentence, so they watched the clouds, desperate for rain. But nature seemed to be against them. The rain never came, and the sun just kept beating down. They were becoming dangerously dehydrated. Dougal knew they wouldn't last more than a day or two like this. Right around then, they started seeing giant sea turtles floating near them. Out of pure desperation, they began hunting them. However, they were so weak they couldn't even chew the turtle meat. To quench their thirst, they started drinking the raw turtle blood. That warm, metallic-tasting liquid became the very thing that kept them alive. The biggest challenge, though, was finding a way to stay hydrated without fresh water. As they were drying up from the inside out, Dougal's wife, Lynn, came up with a strange and desperate idea. Since Lynn was a trained nurse, she knew that drinking dirty or salty water would kill them because the stomach can't handle it. However, she figured that if the body absorbed the liquid through the intestines, the salt might not poison their blood as quickly. They collected the filthy, oily rainwater that had pooled at the bottom of the dinghy. It was too disgusting to swallow, so Lynn used it to give the family enemas. It was a gruesome and incredibly uncomfortable process, but it was their only choice. By getting that liquid into their systems this way, they managed to keep their organs functioning. It sounds unbelievable, but this strange medical survival tactic actually saved them from the brink of death. Days turned into weeks. Their skin cracked and bled under the sun. Living in a cramped boat, dealing with the sting of assault, and the constant fear of sharks made it a living hell. But Dougal Robertson refused to give up. He kept his children's spirits high. Sometimes they spent the entire night bailing water out of the boat just to stay afloat. Driven by hunger, they caught flying fish and ate them raw. In their diaries, they mentioned that fish eyes and livers tasted like a royal feast to them. In that harsh environment, their basic survival instincts took over. They knew that one moment of carelessness meant disappearing under the waves forever. On the 38th day, just as their strength was completely gone, a tiny speck appeared on the horizon. Dougal thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the speck got bigger and bigger. It was a Japanese fishing boat. Dougal fired their very last flare. When the ship started heading toward them, they knew they had finally made it. When the Japanese sailors pulled them on board, the Robertsons looked like skeletons. Their hair was matted, their bodies were covered in sores, but their eyes were full of the joy of being alive. The rescuers were stunned. They couldn't wrap their heads around how a family could survive for over a month in the middle of the ocean like that. The story of Dougal Robertson and his family shows us just how powerful the human will can be. When all hope is lost and death is knocking at the door, humans can still do the impossible through intelligence and grit. What started as a terrifying whale attack ended as a story of ultimate victory. Lynn Robertson's quick thinking and her unique use of medical knowledge still amaze people today. They prove that the human spirit is even vaster than the ocean. That 1972 survival story remains a legendary example of resilience. It reminds us that if you love life enough, life will find a way to save you. The memory of those waves and the flash of the whale's teeth probably still stays with the Robertson descendants. But when they look back, they don't just feel fear, they feel pride in their incredible courage. The world is beautiful, but it can be dangerous in ways we don't expect. But if you have a fighting spirit like the Robertsons, you can find your way back from the darkest corners of the sea. They didn't just come home. They left us with one of the greatest survival stories of all time. Do you think you could have stayed as calm and resourceful as the Robertsons in that situation? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next video with another incredible true story. Take care.
Almost gone.